Dr. Chee, SDP, Dr. Chee,
SDP, Dr. Chee, SDP, Dr. Chee.
Thank you, everyone. So good to see you again tonight. You all were such a great crowd last night. I was so pumped up. Even when I went home, I was still so excited about what happened at Choa Chu Kang Stadium last night. When I laid down to sleep, I couldn't fall asleep. So I laid in bed, wide awake, and I thought, maybe I'll count sheep. It'll help me go to sleep. But that didn't help because they were all in white too. We've got to stop meeting like this. Because the more we meet like this, the more you get to know me. The more you get to know me, we'll put the PAP propaganda machine out of business. Now, yesterday, I talked about how our retirees do not save enough to live on. And I'm not talking about living in luxury. I'm talking about just being able to afford the basic necessities of shelter, food, and seeing a doctor when one falls ill. According to a survey conducted by DBS, 75% of Singaporeans do not, I repeat, do not have a plan for securing their retirement needs. How can they? When they are already not earning enough to secure their everyday needs. Now, as I said yesterday, half of Singaporeans don't earn enough to have savings because of the high cost of living in Singapore. How can you plan for retirement when your income, your incoming paycheck immediately goes out to paying for your housing loans, your groceries, transportation, and your children's needs? And whatever little savings that you have left, the government now says that you cannot withdraw it. Even after you retire, the government wants to retain some of it. It will retain $160,000 of your CPF under the minimum sum scheme. It will return it to you a few $100s a month after you retire or until you run out of savings. And when you die, whichever comes first. When the CPF scheme started in the 1950s, the government promised that it would return our CPF savings, which is our hard-earned money, will return to us when we reach 55. But in the 1980s, the PAP changed its mind and said that we cannot get back our CPF savings until the official retirement age was 62. But here's the problem. And if you forget everything else about what I said tonight, I urge you, for your own sake, to remember this. There is no guarantee that the PAP will not continue to raise the withdrawal age. Don't take it from me. Listen to what the late Dr. Toh Chin Chye, who was the Deputy Prime Minister and founding chairman of the PAP. Listen to what he said when even he opposed his party in wanting to raise the CPF withdrawal age. Now, he said, quote, "Mr. Speaker, I think fundamental principles are being breached. The fundamental principle is this. The CPF is really a fixed deposit or a loan to government, which can be redeemed at a fixed date when the contributor is 55 years old. If I were to put this sum of money in a commercial bank, and on the due date, I go to the bank and to withdraw the money, the manager says, 'I'm sorry, Dr. Toh, you will have to come back next year. There will be a run on the bank. It is as simple as that. That the CPF has lost its credibility, the management of it. This is fundamental. You were taken by surprise by MediSave. Then they say 6% of your special account will be kept for MediSave, and you cannot withdraw that, even if you were to die. Unquote. That was what Dr. Toh Chin Chye said. Today, not only has the withdrawal age been deferred until one is 62, but we also cannot get back all our savings when we finally retire. The government gives the reason that it is because we will squander our savings if they give it back to us. How true is this? How many retirees actually squander their savings when they get it all back? We ask the government to produce data to show us how many people actually misspend their retirement savings. If only a small number actually do, then how can the government punish the vast majority for the deeds of a small minority? But the government will not release any of this data. We know that our CPF reserves are used by the GIC to invest in projects overseas. But the government refuses to tell us how much profit or losses our funds are making. We're not even sure that there are enough in the reserves to return to us. Is this the real reason for retaining our CPF? We tried warning Singaporeans that the government about this many years ago. Back then, the minimum sum scheme was only $40,000. But back then, there was no social media. And the PAP had total control over what information they wanted Singaporeans to know. And because there was no opposition in Parliament to check on the government, it kept on increasing the minimum sum, quadrupling the amount to $160,000 today. I tell you this, not to show you how smart the SDP is. I tell you this to show you that without an effective opposition in Parliament, you cannot check the government when it acts against your interest. In addition, when you don't have a constructive opposition, you cannot propose alternatives to the problem. So what is the alternative if we say that the minimum sum scheme is not good for Singaporeans? Well, we propose the following. 1, return CPF savings back to retirees in full. Retirees depend on their CPF savings for survival. Withholding their savings is not only unfair, but also immoral. 2, introduce an opt-in scheme for minimum sum. Retirees who want their savings returned in installments can do so voluntarily through an opt-in scheme. 3, pay higher interest pay higher interest rates. CPF currently pays 2.5%. This should be adjusted upwards as the GIC says its ROI, return on investment, is higher. 4, remove land cost from HDB prices. This will reduce HDB BTO prices, and it will mean less CPF funds being used to service HDB loans, leaving more savings for retirees. We've discussed all this in detail in our policy, our housing policy. 5, lower healthcare costs. Abolish the MediSave scheme and return the funds to the individual's CPF account. And then we increase the government's portion of the country's healthcare expenditure from 30% to 70% to take care of the people's health. 6, reduce public transport fares for senior citizens over 65 years. These senior citizens will have free bus and MRT rides during off-peak periods and 50% concession during peak periods. Taxi services will provide free transport for those over 80 years old for essential medical appointments. We've spelled out all this in our website, WeRSG.org. Please go in and read and familiarize yourself with our policy. As I mentioned, the PAP says that if all our savings are returned to us, we will blow it away and then turn to the government for help. This is a red herring. As it is, the government is doing little to support our elderly, poor, leaving them to collect cardboard to sell. I live in Toa Payoh, and I see many of them doing this. Late at night, when it's cooler, you can see these apes and ums piling up cardboard on carts and pushing them through the street. I was coming home the night before, and it was quite late, after I did the recording, I beg your pardon, I did that CNA forum with Mr. Lawrence Wong. It was about 9 at night, and it was dark. I almost hit an elderly lady in her 70s as she was pushing a cart. It was against traffic flow. She did it because she couldn't push the cart over the road divider. And the cardboard was piled so high, it was above her head, she couldn't see oncoming traffic. A few months ago, it was reported in the press that an old lady was killed when she was pinned under a bus as she was collecting cardboard. Do you know how much cardboard one has to sell to make enough to just buy 3 meals a day? The going rate is about 10 cents a kilo, right? To eat breakfast a day, let's say $2 for breakfast, a cup of coffee and kaya toast, $3 for lunch, and another $3 for dinner. That's $8. In other words, each has to sell 80 kilograms of cardboard a day just to feed themselves. I'm 65 kilos. Just imagine that. There are also many of our elderly cleaning tables at hawker centers or cleaning toilets at shopping centers and in the airport. Many of them do this back-breaking work for 6 to 8 hour shifts just to earn some money to feed themselves. What has happened to us? Where is our compassion? Why do our elderly have to clear tables and wash our toilets and collect cardboard just to live out their remaining years? I don't believe that we are such a nasty people. I refuse to accept that we can treat our elderly so indifferently, so callously. We are a good people, but we have been led astray. And we must find our way back, my friends. We must find our soul again. Because a people without a soul is a people who will not find life. Life in its most profound sense. I don't want to give you alternative policies on how we can become richer and richer. Not if it means we have to lose our soul, our very essence of being human. And being human is to show compassion, is to care for our fellow beings. For those less fortunate than us. I try to live my life with the courage to stand up to those who wield power. I try to impart these values to my children too. That if they see their friends getting bullied, for example, they must intervene, even if the bullies are bigger than them and turn on them and they get pummeled. I tell them that it's better to get a bloody nose than become cowardly and indifferent in the face of cruelty and injustice. I live in a 3-room HDB flat in Toa Payoh. My neighbors are hawkers, lorry drivers, and odd job laborers. I couldn't have asked for a better neighborhood to bring up my children. I want to teach Ann Lin, Elin, and Shawha humility and compassion. I want them to learn about serving others instead of being served. I want them to be scholars, but not just in mathematics or science, but in caring for humanity. I want them to be leaders who possess power not to lord it over others, but to improve the lives of others. People ask me why I involve my children in my political work. I do it because I want them to learn about the hard work of standing up and speaking up. I want them to learn about integrity and character. These are life lessons they'll not learn in the classroom, but lessons infinitely more important. This is the same message my colleagues and I in the SDP want to spread. We measure our success not by the type of car we drive or the size of the house that we live in, but by the number of minds that we unfetter, the number of young lives that we give hope to, and the number of the poor whom we empower. To accumulate this kind of wealth, the kind that matters most, my colleagues and I press on. For that Amma in her 70s whose bent and gnarled figure struggles in the sun and the rain to collect cardboard to sell so that she can feed herself, we press on. For that breadwinner who cannot find a job that pays decent wages so that he can scrape together enough money to send his children to school, we press on. For those who seek a more equal and just compassionate society, we press on. We press on because the fire of hope and justice still burns brightly in this, the Singapore Democratic Party. My friends, we've forgotten how to dream. We've forgotten how to hope. We've forgotten how to care for our old and our weak. We've forgotten how to dream for a better tomorrow, and that we have the ability to make that dream come true. Instead, we've retreated into the shell and just live in fearful silence, hoping that nothing bad will happen to us. I'm asking you, my friends, my dear fellow Singaporeans, not to live in this cynicism and fear any longer. Instead, let us seize the moment and ride confidently into the future. If we do that, I don't just believe, I know that we will build a better nation, a nation that we can truly love and be proud of. You know, many people have said to me, Dr. Chee, why don't you just leave the country for somewhere else? With your qualifications, you can find a job elsewhere and live comfortably with your family. I have never considered that, not even for a moment. Because if I leave, there will be one less voice to speak up for Singaporeans. If I leave, there will be one less citizen to fight for democracy. If I leave, the PAP wins. And if the PAP wins, the people lose. No, I cannot leave. I will not leave. This is my home. I know of no other. I was born Singaporean. I was raised Singaporean. And I will die Singaporean. I may not have done everything right, but everything I've done in the last 24 years, 5 years, I've done it for my country and for my fellow citizens. I have stumbled. Whenever I stumble, my opponents laugh and they rub their hands in glee. It is painful, and that pain has tested me to the very core. But I know I must bear the pain because it is the pain that makes me better and stronger. Earlier this year, Mr. Chan Chun Sing called me a political failure. But I tell him that even though we may not succeed in achieving the goals that we set out to achieve, it doesn't mean that we have failed. For failure comes only when we stop trying. And if you don't know by now, if you don't know me by now, I will tell you again, I will not stop trying. The media has portrayed me in the worst light possible all these years. And it has taken its toll. Many Singaporeans still have bought this line. They still have this impression of me that the PAP has created. I know that many Singaporeans still think very badly of me. But I will not tell them that I am not the creature that the PAP has painted of me, because even if I do, they'll not believe me. I can only show you, demonstrate to you, through my actions, through my perseverance, through my faith, the injustice the PAP has done to me and my family. This, right here, right now, this is me. Even in my darkest moments, I have never stopped believing in my country, my fellow citizens. When I was made bankrupt, when I had to go to prison, when the PAP called me all sorts of names, when it seemed that all hope was gone, I never lost faith that one day you, my fellow Singaporeans, you will know the truth about me and that you will believe in me like I believed in you. I came into politics 25 years ago to change minds, not just votes. I've said it before and I will say it again. Our biggest struggle is not against the PAP. It is against what the PAP has done to our minds. If we change minds, we can change the way politics is conducted in Singapore. One where the PAP doesn't just make personal attacks, but rather engages in mature debate. One where we come together to solve the problems of our country and make a difference in the lives of our people. That will always remain the goal of my political life. It is a goal that I hope you will share and support. And more importantly, one that you'll vote for next Friday. Thank you. Good night.